Hello friends, welcome to today's daily devotion. I'm Kerry Wood, pastor of the Goldston Methodist Church, and this week we are looking at John Wesley's rules for money, and rule number 1 is to gain all that you can. But Wesley gives us some stipulations and some ways in which gaining all we can should be practiced. And so to learn some of these things, today we're looking at the Gospel of Luke, the 12th chapter, reading verses 42 through 46. Hear now these words. The Lord answered, "Who then is the faithful and wise manager, whom the master puts in charge of his servants to give them their food allowance at the proper time? It will be good for that servant whom the master finds doing so when he returns. Truly, I tell you, he will put him in charge of all his possessions. But suppose the servant says to himself, 'My master is taking a long time in coming,' and he then begins to beat the other servants, both men and women, and to eat and drink and get drunk. The master of that servant will come on a day when he does not expect him, and at an hour that he is not aware of. He will cut him to pieces and assign him a place with the unbelievers." Here Jesus is describing the kind of a person who is gaining all they can, but at the expense of his fellow servants, of fellow human beings. And so one of the things that we need to take into consideration as we try to gain all that we can is that we cannot gain all that we can when it causes harm to others. In fact, that's one of the big things that John Wesley describes, that our gaining should never harm someone else's health or life. If we're taking advantage of people and causing them to be hurt or even to lose their lives, so slavery is an excellent example of what cannot be done in order to gain all we can, to put people into the bondage of an addiction. And so drug pushers, for example, would be someone who is gaining all they can by harming the lives of their customers, even killing them in the process of getting a buck. But also it means that we should not be gaining all we can by taking their possessions. That's what this servant had done. He was taking their food and their wine, and he was taking it all for himself and getting drunk and leaving them with nothing to eat. How many times in our world do we hear the juxtaposition of how much food is wasted and how many people are starving? What is it about the human condition that we think that's an okay way to gain? And thirdly, there is a desire to not gain without harming another's soul. When we deprive people of their health, of their possessions, of their livelihoods, of their self-worth, we are harming their souls. And Jesus warns that when the Master comes, such a person will be cut to pieces and assigned a place with the unbelievers. Another way of thinking about this is the Master, meaning Jesus, will judge us, and if we aren't gaining in the right ways, we lose big time. So gain all you can, but if you're hurting somebody else, stop. Don't gain that way. And we'll learn more about the proper ways of gaining in our next daily devotion.